All right, so tonight's topic. Now, whenever we do our lesson, our sales lesson, we like to turn the camera off because we want to concentrate more on the information we're giving you than how we look on the screen. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shut us off so you don't have to watch us while we talk. So there we go. But you will still have us both here on the call. So tonight what we wanted to talk about is 5 traits of highly successful people. And it's successful salespeople, I should say. And I did a good amount of research on this, and I think you all know I've been in the sales industry for longer than I can remember. It's the first thing I ever did was sell. I know Steve has been in the industry. You're pushing at least 40 years.
Yeah.
And so when I came across this, I doctored it up a little bit, but I think the information was really solid. So setting the stage is the first thing that we want to do. Are you cut out to make the sale? Because Steve, you and I both know not everyone is cut out to be a salesperson.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, some people also, we don't want to discount that you don't have the opportunity. I was not in sales when I got into sales.
Right.
I actually at the time was working construction. Unlike you, Mac, I really hadn't sold anything until I was 27 years old. So I think I turned into a pretty good salesman.
But that answer, so are you cut out to make the sale? I think there are some good natural salesmen. I've met them before.
Absolutely.
But I think that you can learn to be a good salesperson. I think it is a very, it's not an easy skill to acquire. It takes practice and diligence and endurance. But, the one thing we want to say is make sure that you've got these 5 characteristics down if you're moving into this idea of sales and you want to make this a profession for yourself, see, because selling and buying are not purely intellectual exercises. It's not just you battling that other person mentally. Buyers and sellers are emotional beings, which is why great salespeople are always masters at managing their own emotions, or as I have said to you before, sales is the greatest movement in the human condition. Learning about the human condition. Based upon my observations, some pretty hefty research on emotional intelligence, highly successful salespeople cultivate the following 5 emotional traits. Okay, so you ready? All right, so the first one is assertiveness. Steve, you want to take them through assertiveness?
Yeah, and this is a great point that this brought up, Mac, about the emotion of it.
Yeah.
Because being in sales, in the beginning you hear a lot of different things and you're trying to discern, well, do I do this? Is someone buying on emotion? Are they buying on fact? Do they want the numbers? Well, you're gonna find the smallest number of people really are going to buy based on the facts, the numbers. Okay, those are typically going to be people like engineers, rock scientists, those type of people. Okay,
yeah,
not me and you, Matt.
Real detail.
Okay, yeah. Most people really do buy on emotion. It doesn't mean that they don't want to know the facts,
right,
that they don't want to know the numbers, but it is an emotional thing that they're doing. It has to move them to making a decision about what they do. So that's why we're talking about this tonight. People have to have some type of emotional feeling about what they're doing and know that it's going to be good for them with the facts and the way they feel. This allows you to move a sales situation forward without offending or frustrating the customer. And that's one thing that you surely don't want to do. You offend them or frustrate them, look, the sale's over. It's unwinding. Think of it as being located halfway between passivity and aggressiveness. For example, suppose a customer is delaying a decision, they're putting it off. There are at least 3 basic responses that you could give back to them. For example, let's talk about the passive person. Could you give me a call when you made a decision? As a salesperson, you're telling them this. Well, look, Mr. and Miss Jones, how about just giving me a call when you made a decision on that? Let me tell you when Mr. and Miss Jones is going to make a decision. Never. They're never going to make it. You didn't move them towards making a decision, and most people are afraid to make a decision. That's human nature.
Yep.
What about an aggressive personality? Oh man, I'm a closer. Look, I can close the deal. Man, I can get in there. Well, if you don't buy right now, the offer is off the table. Well, it'll probably be off the table.
You say it.
It will be. Assertiveness. This is somewhere between passive and aggressive, but you have to move someone towards making the sale, making the purchase. Can you give me a specific time and date when you feel like you can make your final decision. Get a commitment. Get a commitment from them, because if you don't, you will keep calling and calling and calling, and then you're going to stop calling because you think you're pestering them. You've got to move people towards that date and towards that close.
And one other thing I'd like to add in there is we utilize, what's been utilized pretty broad across UFF is the GPS 101 selling system, and a part of that is setting the rules of engagement. And the rules of engagement in and of themselves are assertive in nature. Hey, we're going to meet. I usually find that after our, we're going to meet the first time, we're going to go over, your numbers, we're going to input all the data. We're going to meet a second time, we're going to go over the results. And at that time, I'm going to expect you to make a decision. I find with my clients, if they don't make a decision by the second visit, they're typically not going to buy. But if we do need to have a third appointment, then we can go ahead and do that, and you can decide if you want to do that. But if you see a need for a fourth, we probably can decide that this is not right for you.
Yeah.
So I want you to understand that we're breaking it down here. I'm not trying to take away from what you've been taught. I'm just trying to break it down so you understand that this assertive approach is a lot different than being aggressive, and it's a lot more effective than being passive. And what we find out is that the passive response puts the sale on hold indefinitely, or gives the competitor the opening to outsell you. Think if it's in an automobile sale. How many people want to let you get off the lot when you're actually looking at a car or you've been in the car?
Man, that manager tells you as the salesman, you don't let them leave.
You don't ever,
a car.
right. And the reason why you don't is because once they leave you, there's 5 other places that offer the same car. Why are they going to buy it? I mean, the numbers are going to be really relatively close at any dealer. It goes back to that emotion thing. They're going to buy from people that like you, and that assertiveness, that ability to set the stage and go, hey, this is the car you like, right? Let's make this work for you. Let's go inside and let's sit down and look at some numbers and see if this will work out for you. A little bit more assertive approach. The aggressive response creates pressure and resentment. Even if it works, you'll be seen as typical pushy sales, and chances are you won't get any referrals out of that client. But when you use that assertive approach, it sets up the specific conditions for the close without forcing the customer's pace. So what do we mean by that? It kind of tells them, hey, we have a timeline. We're going to have to make a decision. I don't want to force you into this decision right at this moment, but you have to start thinking about it. And that's how assertiveness, that's one of your 5 traits that you're going to want to leave. Steve, you want to let's tell them about the next one?
Yeah, the next one is called self-awareness. And, what you need to do is be able to identify your emotions, how you feel about it, understand how they work, and then use them to help you build stronger customer relationships. There's a 4-step process of that, but you really need to understand sales are a lot to do with relationships and how you come across to someone, and how you feel about it. You know that you're not too passive, you're not too aggressive. Mm-hmm. Identify the emotions that you feel about it. You have to be, people need to see that you're passionate about what you're presenting, that you do believe in it, okay? Based on experience, predict how your emotions will affect your sales effort. Compensate for any negative emotions that might hinder the sale. Maybe, and we're going to kind of expand on that tonight, but expand your positive emotions that might help you make the sale. When maybe some things aren't going great, or you have some negative something in your mind, and maybe you're not having a positive feeling, that comes across to people, okay? Let's use an example. Suppose you feel angry, upset, furious that an important customer stood you up. I mean, doesn't that upset you? You got a time set, that, and you make that call, you get that Zoom set up, and they're not there, or they stand you up. Kind of makes you angry, doesn't it? Yep. But see, you might take a little break. Maybe you've got another appointment coming up, or you need to get on the phone and you need to make another call to replace that appointment that the person just stood you up. Hey, maybe you need to take a little break for just a minute. Think about things, calm down a little bit, because if you're still upset about that, that's going to come across to the person you're talking to, and you need to be upbeat and you need to be positive. Remind yourself all the time, succeed in the face of challenges that you got to be faced with. Or maybe you think about an icebreaker. Tell your customer just the opposite. Hey, I'm having one of the best days ever. I'm having a great day. people want to feel positive. Listen, I'll just tell you this real quick. I have one of my daughters has a very outgoing personality, very just big smile and all that. And when she comes into the room, she really lights it up, and her personality comes across. I promise you, she does customer service work, and I promise you that people see that smile and hear that on the phone, because that's part of her nature, and that's got to become a part of your nature. People will. You think, well, people can't see me. Well, you think y'all can't see me and Mac right now, but you hear us and you hear how we feel.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, and see, self-awareness is all a part of being aware of your emotions and being able to kind of mirror the individual that you're talking to, or the individual that you're talking with, and being aware of your emotions and where you are and how they're going to impact you, how they've impacted you in the past, is very important. So this is also a little bit with self-awareness. It's a little bit to do with attitude. So the third trait is empathy. And you all have heard me talk about it. You've heard me talk about all of these traits at one time or another on my trainings, but empathy was one where when I spoke to you, I said, how many people would have ever told you in a sales training that it's okay to be vulnerable? That's really not the way we were taught to sell by old school, but empathy is a great way to sell. Feel, felt, found. This entails adapting your behavior to the customer's moods and emotions. It begins with listening and observing, but simply knowing what the customer might be feeling is not enough. You must be able to feel what the customer is likely to be feeling. Let me give you an example of this so we kind of understand empathy. And I went with this example. There's a lot of different ones, but I think you can get the gist of it from here. Suppose during a sales call, you discover that your customer's first firm just announced major layoffs, and your customer may be part of those layoffs, okay? Now, you could ignore the news and proceed with the sale call as if nothing had ever changed, or you could focus on your desire to make the sale and your customer's need, okay? Because it could be that if you get pushy right there, you're disregarding your desire to make the sale. So knowing that you want to make the sale and being aware of your customer's needs, it might put you in a position to ask the contact if this is a good time for them with the information you see. With that information you just received, man, that's got to be a blow. I can see it. I can tell. Is this a good time to go through this process right now, or should we maybe set up another day? And they're going to tell you right there. Now, if the kid failed math, that's not a reason to shut down a sale. I'm sorry, your kid failed math. Have you gotten a tutor? You can be empathetic with it. That's not a reason to shut it down. I just got a phone call in the middle. You're getting ready to start your presentation, and I just found out that my granddad died. That might be a sales stopper. So I think everything that we do, we have to think about it. But what we have to understand is that both responses, okay, you can either just continue with the sale like nothing happened with all that information being given to you, or you can be empathetic and maybe ask the questions. This is a good time to receive. But both responses make business sense. Either way that you went, they make business sense. But if you want to build a better relationship, like Steve is talking about, building the relationships is how sales are done, you'll be empathetic and imagine your contact sense of fear and confusion given the situation. Then, depending on your emotional reading of the customer, okay, you can decide whether the customer would prefer to commiserate, complain, or be distracted from the situation. Do they want to go on with the sale, or have they told you no? Do they just want to socialize for a little bit? Do they want to complain about the situation that just happened? Many times you get a client talking and they just start complaining about their situation and their debt, and all of a sudden they just relax and they start giving you all the information you want.
Yeah.
So empathy is a great way. Feel, felt, found is a great way if something arises in the middle of the sale unexpected, to empathize with the client, to show that you have heart for their situation, and literally ask them the question, given the set of circumstances that neither one of us foresaw, would you like to proceed differently?
A point that I might make on that end of that Mac, that you made, there's definitely a difference between being empathetic and being passive. It's different. Don't mistake empathy for look, yes, should you be empathetic and kind? Let's say it's a situation where it is a tough deal, okay? Maybe they've lost their job or someone's passed away or something, and you want to be empathetic to that, but you have, at the same time, you have great news for that person. Well, can you move forward with that? No, not really in that particular scenario. Be empathetic and say, listen, I'm very sorry to hear that happened. I'm sure that you probably would like to postpone this and maybe put it off to another time. I do have some really good news for you, something that can really help you, but I totally understand we need to move this forward. So you leave them with something that you planted the seed, right? The seed there, I got good news for you as far as helping you out, but I totally do understand. You weren't passive, but you were empathetic.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between empathy and pity and sympathy. Empathy is just empathy is walking another mile in another man's shoes.
I feel for you. I understand.
Yep, I get it. All right.
Okay. Problem solving. Problem solving is the desire to solve a problem that helps you create new ways to satisfy the customer's needs, both their financial, their return on investment of your offering, and the emotional problem solving, such as the customer's need to be convinced that you and your firm are reputable and reliable. Problem solving is a 4-step process, and it's very important that you know, hey, they're telling you I have a problem, a concern with this certain issue. How are you going to resolve that? Customer situation as it really is. Never to try to solve a problem before you fully understand it. So one of the things that I learned a long time, I learned many lessons in this industry, okay? And you need to become aware of this. And I really worked at this hard, and I'm not 100%, but I really do try. Don't talk over people.
Yep.
That's what this means. They're giving you a problem or something that they're concerned about. You feel like in your head, oh, I know where they're going with this, and you just roll right in on top of them, and you stop them and you interrupt them, and maybe that's not even what they wanted to know. Maybe that wasn't even the problem.
Yep.
And you talked over them. That insults people when you talk over them. Let them get out what their problem is so you can have all the facts. Help the customer visualize or see there's a better solution. I do have that. We have a more desirable situation for that. Devise a way to move the customer from the way things are today to the way the customer would like them to be. Okay, you got to satisfy them how this is going to help them from today, how it's going to look for them into the future. Communicate that the solution in a way that makes it easy for the customer to make a decision. Look, people, and I'll just tell you this straight out, and I had to learn this lesson the hard way. People don't care how much you know. They don't. They don't care how much you know. They just want to know that you have the knowledge enough and experience enough to know about this program. What happens in some cases is the salesperson wants to tell everybody what they know.
Right.
Because I want you to think I'm smart. I know a lot of stuff, and you talk your way out of the sale. Yep. Listen, they tell you what their problem is. Stick to that problem, not any 3 things that you think you need to discuss, because you might bring up 2 more things. That's not a problem to them, and all of a sudden it becomes one because you mentioned it. Okay, so be sure you understand that. And while these steps might seem obvious, they're the exact opposite of old school salesmanship, where selling entails giving a great sales pitch. People don't want a pitch anymore.
No. We've gotten to a place, and I think a lot of it's happened with social media. You know, a lot of it's happened with the crash of the market back in 2008. Mm-hmm. People just have become a lot more skeptical, and it really is. People are looking for you to be an advocate. They're looking for you to help them solve the problem and solve it in an efficient way and solve it in a manner that's easy to understand. That's why we reinforce, or why we speak about, use the videos that we have out there to explain the product. Use the analysis to explain the numbers. And the reason that is so we don't sidetrack. That's the whole idea with Sales Track and GPS selling system and having videos out there and having analysis software. And even with the analysis software, there's a slideshow that you go through that shows you what your results are going to be. So when you try to ad lib or you try to wing this, we find that we confuse the client, and that's why we've developed the tools that we've developed for you. And the 5th, and to me, I got to say, is one of the most important ones, Steve, wouldn't you agree, is your attitude.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll let you.
Wait, you want to go one more?
I just want to say one thing. Listen, this is an old saying. It is an old saying in sales, and it is true today. Okay? And Mac, Mac, you say things that, yes, I love how Mac makes great points, you know. Listen, people don't believe what you say. They believe what they read or see. That's why we have videos. That's why we have an analysis. That's why we have numbers, so people can see it, because they don't believe what you say. They believe what they see.
And then they need to connect with you on the emotional level.
Absolutely.
And so if they see the stuff, and then they have a feeling of trust for you, I know you've had a sale like this. I know I have, where the person's actually looked at me at the end of it and said, well, what do you think I ought to do?
Yeah.
Well, that's like the best question you could ever have with somebody. Well, what do I, hold on.
Let me think.
Wait, hold on. What do I think you should do? I think you should kick me out of your house right now and get them laughing or whatever. But it's the best question you can ever have from that client. And you'll never get that question unless you connect with them. And then number 5, just going to it. Steve and I know this. We all talk about it. Your attitude determines your altitude. 80% of success is just showing up. The 80-20 rule, 100% of the people will show up, but 20% will do the work. It's all about attitude. It's all in your mind. It's all, and I know for those of you that aren't new to this, and we're talking about salespeople, some of the best salespeople that I ever had were teachers. They never were salespeople. They were educators, and they had to go to work every day with a good attitude, with optimism, because they were enlightening these young minds, especially elementary school teachers, believe it or not. Were some of the best salespeople that I have ever come across. And it's because they don't try to sell, they try to educate, and they keep this optimistic viewpoint, because optimism helps you maintain the sense of balance when things go awry. It's where your hope comes from, okay? It proceeds directly from often unspoken rules that we've already made up in our construct that we use to interpret daily events. For example, if the first sales call, let's say you went on that day, went poorly, your performance for the rest of the day will be different if you have one of these 2 rules, okay? So I want you to look at the first rule. The first rule is if you said a bad first call means that I'm off my game and this will be a bad day. Well, that seems pretty defeating, doesn't it, Steve?
Yeah.
What about this rule? Every sales call is different, so the next one will probably be better. You like that one better?
Yeah.
Or how about every sales call is different? I've had great success after great failures. So I'm going into this with a positive attitude. It's the way that you look at it, but the idea is that if the first thing that popped into your mind was a bad first call means that I'm off my game and this will be a bad day or a bad day for calls, you've already implanted that in your mind. You have to be able to flip the script. You have to be able to turn that around.
I had two rules when I was making appointments. I had 2 rules. If I got a no, I'm staying on the phone until I get a yes. Like I lived up to that pretty much my entire career. Number 5, optimism. Those are arbitrary responses to the same event. Neither one is more realistic than the other one. Up to the first rule rather than the second one, it will be difficult for you to remain optimistic if you just keep going back to that negative thought. Attitude is everything. It's everything. The principle of having a good positive attitude is a principle that works on bigger events as well. You know, I've run into about a dozen top salespeople who saw or have seen the weak economy as an opportunity to sell even more, and did.
During that.
While their colleagues were busy, oh, what do I do? Oh man, everything's bad in the economy. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they end up quitting the business or not making it, and the other person has the same economy. I remember I remember years and years ago, Art Williams, and those of you who are in A.O. Williams will remember this. Art had a great story, and I'll make it very brief. But he said that there were two executives in Dallas, Texas, and one made $50,000 a year and one made $500,000 a year. He said they were in the same city, the same people, the same market, the same products, the same they had the same everything. It was all the same. But what was the difference? And really, he goes through this big, long explanation of hey, one person did it, but the other person did it and a little more. And, this person did this, but the other one did this and a little more. And so what it showed was that the person who made $500,000 a year had the attitude. They do things, but they do the extra. They go the extra mile. They do a little bit more. They work a little bit harder. They don't end making the appointments on a no. They don't let one bad appointment ruin their next appointment. All those things come into play, and that really is a mindset that you develop in this business. And if you don't ever develop that mindset, it's going to be a very, very tough road.
Yep. The way my dad said this to me was, your attitude determines your altitude. Where one sees difficulty, the other sees opportunity. And that's what we're really talking about. Sales is difficult. It is difficult to stay pumped up. It is difficult to always have your head in the game. And that's why you circle yourself with a team. That's why you circle yourself with people of like and kind mind. When you're having a bad day, pick up the phone. Call somebody that you know that's in the sales game with you, that's in your upline. Complaints never go down. If you have any types of complaints or having a bad day, they go up.
Right.
Okay, so if you're an ED, whoever is above you, that's who you complain to when you're having your bad day, but you never complain down about anyone, about any situation, because those people below you are looking at you as the leader. You are the one that must maintain the optimism and the attitude so they can look to you to say, wow, how does he keep on doing that? Thrive. So these 5 rules, I mean, there's a lot of other areas that you would want to develop in sales if this is what you're going to do. But these 5 really spoke to me in the context of, it's about getting to know the client and creating. If you look at all 5 of these, it's about creating the relationship with the client. It's about being the one that leads the client through the process and the one that provides the end solution, and does all of this with kindness and love of the game and love of the individual and love of the product. And so that's why we thought this would be a very important lesson for you. Steve, do you have any wrap-up words for me?
Yeah, you were, Mac, you worked on this. You put some great stuff together, and you really worked on this. And as you were thinking about it, you had the sales, in mind of how to work with the potential customer and how you treat them and how you move the sales along and how to deal with the negativity. Much of these things that we do in sales also cross over in recruiting.
Yep.
And building relationships and how to recruit someone. It's that positive attitude. It's being excited and passionate about what you do. Not being negative or saying, yeah, it's a great business, but I tell you, it can be really tough. Well, listen, that's no way to recruit somebody. You're not going to recruit me. Listen, this is a great opportunity. You'll be excited about it. So there's a lot of things that are crossovers in sales that come towards recruiting, and you should be teaching your people all of these things that Mac and I cover. These should be things that you continuously train and teach to your team and make sure that they understand this and they become the best that they can become.
All right. Well, with that having been said, ladies and gentlemen, we've enjoyed having you on the call. I'll go ahead and turn it back on so you can see that Steve and I are still here and we're still alive. And hey, we love having you on the calls. We love doing these trainings for you. If you ever have any questions or concerns, you can feel free to email Steve or myself or support. I hope you got a lot out of this training. Just remember, a lot of what we do in sales is the heart that you bring to the table, your personality, your heart, your consideration to want to do the absolute best that you can for the client. That's our motto. That's what buying America back one family at a time. Turn debt into wealth. All of these are very positive things. And just want to say thank you all so much for joining us this evening. Steve, anything else?
Just see a couple of things. That video is on Rapid Funnel. We just had a couple of people ask about it, and they said, "Oh, there it is. We found it." So it is back there on Rapid Funnel.
Yeah, it's under peak interest, and it's under client peak interest and agent peak interest. So it is there. And thank you all so much. And from Steve and I,
let's see, next week.
Yeah, next week we are not having
won't
a call.
Be here.
Yeah.
So, hey, everyone, have a wonderful Merry Christmas. Be safe. Blessings for you and your family. Hope that you have a wonderful time. We know this is a different year this year. and getting together with our families, but everyone's in our thoughts and prayers, and hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas and holiday season.
Yep. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. And from Steve and I here, let's get out there and do it big. Let's get out there and do it right. But at the very least, let's get out there and do something right now. This is Steve and Max saying bye-bye for now.
Good night, everybody.